Vex world. We are so excited to be bringing you Unvexed, episode number 5, a deeper dive into Vex robotics. I'm Paula Mortensen, and I am your host. I am filling in for the Andrew Dolan, who is off, hopefully spoiling his beautiful wife on vacation halfway across the globe. Just a disclaimer, just to let you know that tonight's episode is pre-recorded due to some summer conflicts, and so you are welcome when this is aired on the third Monday of the month to go ahead and add to the chat and discuss amongst yourselves. But just be aware that that unfortunately will not be reaching us as this is recorded prior. We're super excited to bring you some great stuff tonight. We've got the middle school VRC World Champions, one of the teams from the Alliance. The Supernova Hydra, Team 3324U, is going to be joining us. And then we're going to have a little bit different conversation tonight. We're going to have just kind of a round table with some of our experts here on why competitive robotics. And so we're super excited that you're joining us. And if you would not hesitate to like and subscribe to the button below, that would be fabulous. Again, we air every third Monday of the month. And so have fun and enjoy. Hopefully you get some benefit from our discussion tonight. We are so excited to be interviewing the middle school team from Spin Up, the World Champions. We've got one part of the Alliance, Supernova Hydra, 3324U. They are coming to us from the Science Academy STEM Magnet School in Los Angeles, California. And with us, we've got Nicholas and Arrow, two people from the team. And so, first of all, congratulations. What an honor for you guys to be considered world champs. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels great. We definitely weren't expecting it. It was both of our first years in robotics, so very surprising. But it feels great. Yeah.
So, first of all, what role do each of you play on your team?
Right. So because it's just a team of two, we have to split a lot of the roles. But we both build, we both notebook. But specifically, I am the driver. I drive both regular matches and skills. And Nicholas,
Yeah, I'm the programmer for all intents and purposes. And yeah.
Have you guys been around Vex Robotics for quite some time? Since this is the first time you've been on a team, that is pretty amazing that you made it all the way to the championship. So that's pretty spectacular. But had you been surrounded by Vex before?
No, this is our first time really going into robotics or anything like that. So we haven't really been surrounded by Vex by much. I mean, we've been in the school for the past 2 years, and we've known of our other teams in the school that have had good success as well. For example, last year, our sister team, 3324B, they got to finals in Worlds, barely losing out to another team. Yes, so we have a very successful org.
That is so spectacular. So, you're world champions. I went back and I watched some video and I saw that you were from the technology division and you paired with a team from Shanghai, 9123X. And I saw that you guys competed in qualifying round 181. Did you know that team? Had you scouted them before? Or how did kind of that alliance come about?
Right, so we watched their matches throughout the tournament and stuff, and we saw their scores. We also saw that they were ranked decently high on the world skills ranking, so we already had our eyes out for them. But it was only really when we went to the competition that we saw them and talked to them and found out that they were a good alliance.
Yeah. Well, we also actually scouted all the good teams prior to the competition. We watched like the regional open in China, and we saw they were a good team. Along with the fact we scouted pretty much every team that we thought was good, and they were one of the teams we scouted. So we had previous information that they were likely a good alliance. And by the time that it came to eliminations, we were first rank, and there were multiple factors why we think they were the best alliance. They had a fast drive. They were quite consistent, as us and them were the only two undefeated in the entire, division. So yeah, we just work together well.
I think that's pretty amazing as a middle school team for you to be able to recognize and one that you're scouting ahead of time. Obviously, the top teams do know how to do that and make sure that their scouting abilities have been fully utilized. So it's pretty amazing that as a middle school team, you both seem very articulate and well rounded and seem like you were really paying attention. So good job. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
So you win the championship. What's life like when you get back to school then? Was it pretty exciting?
Yeah, so our organization, Supernovas, we're from our school, the Science Academy, and we already had 10 teams going to Worlds. So half our organization was in Texas, plus our principal and vice principal of the school itself. So we already had a huge celebration there, which felt really good, I guess. But since our robotics team is a big part of our school, the school itself also took a bit, basically had a lot of pride in our win, and they announced it on the loudspeaker, and a lot of people said thanks. So yeah.
I bet the hotel that you guys stayed in was pretty amazing. And I don't think anybody on your floor probably slept that whole Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, so you've had great success. You've been surrounded by some great sister teams. You guys I would assume that there's quite a bit of collaboration amongst everybody in the program because you all really want to do well. And it sounds like most of you have done extremely well the way it is. But do you have any other insight that you would like to share with the VEX community? What made your team so special? What made your team be able to excel like it did?
Yeah, so throughout the year, as this was our first year, at the beginning we were much slower than what we are now. We were figuring out stuff, basic building concepts. For me, coding, arrow how to drive, and throughout the year we figured out that we actually wanted to do this more and more, and we ramped up in how much effort we wanted to put in. At the beginning, I'd say we met like once or twice a week for a couple hours each, but already by I'd say October, and we really kicked into high gear by around January. We started meeting almost every single day, and we were working multiple hours a day to get the robot in condition because we're a small team and we have to work against bigger teams that have multiple builders, like five sometimes, like teams of like 10 or things. So as two new first year team people, that we have to work together to create a really competitive robot.
I also want to add that in terms of what really separated us at Worlds from all these high class, amazing teams, was, well, first of all, teams, when you get to really high levels, they're all very similar in their skill level. There's kind of like a bar that teams meet where they can, perform the task at a very large efficiency. And if you, and what really sets a difference between those teams are things like driving and your strategy in a tournament. Because if every robot can perform the tasks very well, then it comes down to um, how well the driver can allow that robot to score points, and as well as how well you work with your teammate so that your strategy is better than your opponent's and you come out on top.
Yeah, like one of the large factors of why we think we won is we had a really good strategy with our alliance that allowed us to outperform other teams that had similar caliber robots.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and
That is
then
just so exciting to hear. If you
Thank
have more to
you.
add, go ahead.
oh yeah. So at the competition, another thing that I think set us apart is I personally had to work really hard because while on the ride there, our robot actually had a very large breakage. So our drive base pretty much snapped in half because the
Oh,
plane ride there was really bumpy. So our two structural support channels that were connecting our two pieces of the drive, they completely got bent. So we had to rebuild pretty much the entire drive. It also ended up damaging our intake and a bit of our flywheel, so we had to rebuild all those portions. We got there one day early, which allowed us to stay there late and work almost the entire night, at least for me. And that let us have the robot in working condition by the first day. but that didn't throw off things like our autos, and the shots were a little different, so it was hard for Arrow to adjust.
Okay. Yeah, definitely a lot of last minute things can happen on the way. So the new game Over Under has been released and there's a lot of buzz going on. What's your take on the new game?
Sure. So, the new game, it does sound fun, but I don't personally feel like it's gonna be as engaging as Spin Up because in Spin Up you were like driving fast on these goals, shooting discs into nets. It was like very active, but in this game, you're kind of just like on your own side, doing your own thing. You're picking up a disc, picking up a try ball, putting it inside the net, picking up another, putting it inside the net. It's not going to be as fun to watch. However, I also do feel like there's a lot of stuff you can do differently between each team in this new game, especially because in the new game there's going to be almost always an offensive robot and a defensive robot. So your strategies and how you build your robot for those two different roles, you can get a lot more advanced with that. While as for Spin Up, both robots are supposed to be able to do very similar things: shoot into the basket, play defense well. The set goals are usually always met in each robot.
Well,
Awesome.
yeah. So
Well, I
the
tell
other thing is the
go ahead.
game. The game, there's some aspects to it that can be more complicated than the last. But like Eric said, it probably won't be as fun to watch because it's less intense in the way you're not being closely guarded from shooting into the high goal and things such as roller play. But it also can be relieving, as I doubt there will be much DQs because you can't shoot at the field. On the other hand, though, while climbing, you run the risk of falling off the pole, which could severely damage your robot. And it's a hard
Yeah,
task
there's
within itself.
definitely a lot of kind of different aspects to this year's game versus last year's. Very cool. Well, I tell you, it's been a privilege to get to know you, Nicholas and Arrow. It's been wonderful, and congratulations again. Congrats to Coach Natalia as well for taking so many teams to the world's competition. And we'll look forward to. Are you? What grade are you guys in? Are you guys going into high school yet? Still in middle school?
Going into
Yeah.
ninth grade, yeah.
Ninth grade. So
So
you'll be
next year
competing
we're
at the high
moving
school
up.
level.
Yeah, so our team's gonna grow larger by two extra members. We're merging with another one of our teams at our school.
Our new number is going to be 334U. It's just same letter, but just different number just because we're moving into high school.
All right. Well, again, congratulations to you both. You are both very articulate young members of a team, and just what a great honor to have you join us here at this Unvexed, a deeper dive into robotics. So good luck to you next year. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much for interviewing us. It's
Yeah,
been
thank you.
fun.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody have any
Yes.
questions that they'd like to ask Nicholas and Errol?
Yeah, I have a question. So I know, and congratulations, guys, on your world championship. And I see there behind you, you were the California tournament champs at your states.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
thank
Thank
Um,
you.
you.
one of the things that we keep hearing come up is scouting. How important is it for teams that don't scout to scout?
Yeah,
And
It's
what are
it's
some of
very
the techniques that they should do?
yeah,
it's very important to scout because when you go to a tournament, you may have an already set mindset of who's gonna be good, who's gonna be bad, but you only get to really know who's good when you get to a tournament and you play matches, and it's very important to see which teams are good. Also, it's also very important to see multiple teams that are good because when you do a line selection, you may have a first pick team in mind. You're like, I really want to be with this team. These seem so good. They want to be with us, but then maybe they get picked by someone who's higher and it doesn't work out. Maybe your next choice doesn't get worked out either. So you really want to find a list of teams and have like a ranked list of who you want to choose, who you want to align with first, second, third, or fourth.
yeah,
Um, and also, in order to do that, you basically you want to watch their matches, you want to see their scores, you want to see what they're good at versus what they're not, and see basically that benefits you and how it doesn't. Basically, want to add
Yeah,
something?
yeah, and so that's very important. Is at almost every competition we went to, we didn't only look for the top teams that we think would rank high. We also wanted to look for teams that would rank low, especially during the competition. So in case everything went terribly wrong, you'd have a good team that was of almost a certain chance you could pick them as a backup. Because if you go for teams that are ranked high, you don't know what will happen. They could choose someone else. But if you're higher than someone and they're in a low position where people might not notice them and they're a good underdog, say, it's a good idea to have an underdog picked as a backup.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for your insight on that.
Yeah, you're
John,
welcome.
you got anything?
Yeah, guys. So you're a 2-man team. You got
Mhm.
2 people, and you can
Yeah.
scout, build, drive, do skills. So what's everybody else's excuse? Because I don't understand it. Because I go to competitions with 6-man teams, and they haven't watched a single match. So how are you guys doing it? Do you have superpowers, eyes in the back of your head? Or maybe it's just because you care enough and you know you got to scout because it's the most important part of robotics.
Yeah, well, we put in a lot of time into robotics, really dedicated. Like I spend almost every night when I ride the robot at my house working on it, tinkering with stuff, or running autos for coding. So even though we have less people, we just constantly put an effort throughout the year, along with or we stay up quite late a lot of days to work on it.
Like we said, we're part of our school organization, and at our school organization, we have a lot of other sister teams and mentors that bring attention to us, like things like scouting, and say that these things are important. You want to focus on these things because we wouldn't know that because we're not experienced enough to understand it.
At the
But
beginning.
when we have help and when we start basically learning from our matches and our tournaments and from other people, that's when we've understood what the importance of these what usually seems smaller um, basically things and how important they are to do.
Yeah, because at the beginning we didn't know much about robotics, so we did have help from our mentors to understand us basic coding concepts and what things to focus on. But we had to figure out almost everything for design, and we had to figure out all designs and work on everything ourselves.
Well, I'm going to say for a first year team, a middle school team, you guys figured out, you had even said how important scouting was. Congratulations
Yes.
on figuring out very early on what it takes. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you too. First of all, congratulations! What a huge accomplishment. As a new team, I think one of the biggest challenges of the teams that I have coached and the teams that I've mentored that they face is learning to code. So, what kind of
Yeah.
advice would you give a team, John? What kind of advice
Yeah.
would you give a team? Did you have experience with coding already, or did you just jump in and figure it out this year? Like I said, what kind of advice would you give a team who is just starting with programming?
Yeah, so I didn't have any experience in the language that I code in now. In school, we learned a bit of Python and other languages, but not C++ as we use now. So I use Vexcode V5 Pro to code, and beginning of the season, I was just learning, looking online, looking at tutorials, trying to find out as much information as I could. And that I just throughout the season, I started making my own code, my own functions as I understood more and more. Once you understand the basic concept of a lot of the code, you can start reading about just conceptual papers such as PIDs, motion tracking, and all that, and you can implement those into your own code. So yeah, it takes a lot of effort and to learn stuff. And another big important one is starting earlier in the season and getting to know this kind of stuff.
Great. Thank you.
Again, just super impressive how well rounded this young team is. No surprise. Well, thanks again, Nicholas and Errol, for joining us, and good luck on the next year's season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Hey, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We just got done interviewing a middle school world championship team, and so now we're just going to kind of talk to some other experts and kind of see why competitive robotics and kind of their insight. Everybody kind of comes from a different background, a different position, ref, coaches, EPs, etc. And so why competitive robotics? And so I think we'll go ahead and start. Christy and Matt, if you guys want to take it away. Why? Why competitive robotics?
Well, I'll start, and I'm just going to say because of her. So that's the reason. My first year of Vex Robotics was 2013, and she was already doing it 2 years before, being the teacher and all that, coach. And I think my very first event that I ever went to, I do photography, was it really wasn't even a state championship at that time. But she's like, hey, can you come take pictures? And she qualified a team. And the next thing I know, we were taking 13 middle school kids across the United States to Anaheim, California, and going, what are we doing? So why competitive robots now? Because it matters. Because me personally, I believe in the program. And we've always said it together, and I think John has heard this. It is very true to life. But to watch kids have those moments where they just get it.
Yeah. Christy, what about
Why
you?
competitive?
So I'm a teacher. And so I have that background. I've coached robotics for many years, as he said. I always saw competitive robotics as an extension of what I was teaching in my classroom. You know, when I had time in a short class period to introduce a concept and know that students were really interested in it, it was always hands-on, it was always doing, but to add the competitive robotics component, you know, we started an after school club. They were taking what they had learned in my class and applying it to the competition field. And so I really saw the learning in my students and saw what the skills that they were developing when they were applying those very, very simple concepts that I was introducing in class and taking it to the whole next level when they were competing. And so I just really see what students can do with this. And it has grown and changed and evolved so much. I know that when I started, robots were very, very simple, and now they are such complicated machines that these students are so amazing. Not that my students back then weren't amazing too, but like I said, robotics has really evolved. These students are learning such important skills that they're taking on to higher education. They're taking on into the workforce, and it's not just skills that are teaching students how to build a robot or how to program a robot, but all of those so important transferable skills, the problem solving, the collaboration, it is in action all the time, whether it's at practice or at a competition or whatever. It just is so huge. I've seen our students graduate from our program and go on and be such successful human beings as they continue it on. And so many of them attribute it to the skills that they learned when they were in VEX. So,
yeah, I don't think anybody can refute the soft skills that they're learning. That's for sure. Yeah. Mark, coming from Mankato West, what are your thoughts? Why competitive robots?
Because I'm crazy. No, I piggyback off what Christy mentioned too about the teaching aspect. I think having, I started teaching engineering in 2005, and then, kids were kind of and already then we're looking at, hey, now I get what I'm doing in physics. And when we started in 2012, all of a sudden you started seeing the kids putting that application together, and it kind of, as a teacher, so often you don't really, hear all the good stories down the road. And right before Worlds this year, one of the parents from my first group that I took in 2016 down to Louisville, they sent a picture that from that year, and they're like, there's 5 kids, 2 of them are currently engineering, one works for the the military or the government that we can't talk about, 2 of them are in science, the other 2 are in science fields. And so I think it's a direct impact on kids. I coached basketball for about 16 years, and I never got anybody into the NBA, let alone Division I college. And here, I have kids that graduated this year that are going to MSU right here in town, that are going to do engineering, that parents never thought that would have been 5 years ago, that was like a pipe dream for them. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that impact on the kids and their careers, and to see what they're doing down the road. And I had a kid come every year. He comes back from Iowa State, and he always tells me what he's doing down there. And he's like, yeah, I'm the president of our steel beam construction, team or whatever. And they were able to go out to California and compete. And he showed me pictures of it. And he goes, I would have never known that without the engineering and the robotics piece and everything. And it's just like, when you get that kind of little message back, it keeps giving you that push to keep going and going, even though we all know, robotics never ends. It's year round, and we're going to go strong. We start our first summer practice tomorrow. So it's fun. And I think it's the impact on the young people, and hopefully we're making a difference along the way.
I have to totally agree with that. John Queen, you have something to add?
Well, of course, when do I not have something to add? Well, of course I do. I started as a parent. I just started as a parent. My kid did this thing, robotics. I didn't even know it existed. I went to a competition. Oh my God. IQ, it's like watching paint dry. But I could see that they got involved. They were excited, building the robot, having fun, trying to problem solve. And through that, kind of my brother and Christy. And so put on events. You always want to step in. You always want to volunteer. The easiest way to make great events is have great volunteers. If you're a parent and you're tired of sitting in the stands, just ask there's something you can do. You can pick up a scoring tablet. You could go in a queuing line. It just started right there. And then I met probably Ohio's robotic legend, Rob Smith. If it wasn't for Rob Smith, I don't know that Ohio robotics would be where it is. Back in the early days, and this will be my 7th year coming up this year, Rob put on events. I mean, he was the EP, he was the head ref, he did it all, and he would ask for help. I'd start scorekeeping, and then it was like, hey, I'm putting an event down here in Dayton. I was like, oh well, I can come down and help, and it was just come down and we'd set up. The kids would help set up, run an event, and it just, you could see it in the kids' eyes. You could see the attention they paid to it. You see what it meant to them. And deep down, I'm a nerd. I was a nerd growing up. If we had robotics way back when I went to school, and that was a long time ago, this would have been my jam. I'd have done it. I'd enjoyed it. Well, obviously I live and breathe it right now. So obviously, and I would have still done it. I would have done it then. But that's what kind of caught me onto it. Just being a volunteer, helping out. And I would suggest to anyone out there that, your school might be doing it and you might look at it and you're just a parent. Ask if there's something you can do. There's always something you do. The more volunteers make a greater event. It's just that easy. And this year at one of our home events for IQ, we had our high school students and some middle school students helped volunteer. And I'll tell you, they essentially ran the whole event. And I'll tell you, it was probably the best event we ever put on. And the ownership they had into it, they took the certification tests. I was there to maybe oversee all the head ref and make sure we were all on the same page and everything was fine. but they took ownership of it. They did it. They did it on their own. These kids, if you empower them and let them, and they give back to these younger kids who are going to be, you go through the high school program and VRC later. It's a wheel. It revolves. Everyone give back. Everyone mentor. Do what you can. Be kind. I mean, it's a great learning curve for them. And that's how I got started, and that's how I'm still in. My daughter will be a senior this year, but I'm not leaving. I'll still be around because sometimes maybe I enjoy it more than her. I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome. I kind of have a similar story. Teach chemistry, physics, had a lot of kids going on into engineering, successful careers, but I knew there was this whole group of kids that were really, really bright, but didn't like the book stuff. They didn't like some of the things that I was teaching in class. And so I felt like there's got to be something out there. And Mr. Bob Bender dropped something in my lap, dropped a free kit and said, hey, if you do this, well, you can have this, keep this kid if you compete. And so got started, and it's just kind of been a snowball effect. I get around people like you guys that are full of energy and so bright and so excited for this next generation. It just kind of gets out of control. And so it's kind of like a magnet to you, and it draws you in. So a lot of great stuff that we were able to share tonight. Definitely think the competition aspect brings a different feel to it, and an extra motivator for these kids that they can take the stuff they're learning in the classroom, whatever, and get it to that next level. And so, yeah, it's really fun to be a part of this and meet all the great people that are kind of helping that next generation and the generations to follow kind of excel. So cool. It's fun to be around everybody.
Paula, can I add to that?
Yeah.
Can I add to that? Because you talked about being around people at competitions. And I have to laugh at that because I have talked to so many, we'll just say non-robot people who are like, oh, you're going to go spend a whole week at Kalahari, or, oh, you're going to spend a whole week. You have to be gone that long. And they don't get it, because when I go to competitions, I'm like around my people. They get me, I get them, and it's like a big family reunion. But when I was just thinking about that too, our students are the same way. Like, they love to be around other people who get what they get. Does that make sense?
It does. I got a text message from a parent that said, Mankato West, what are you guys, an hour and a half away from us? But there were some team members that drove down to the pool. Some of my kids are lifeguards, and they were just hanging out for the day because they've created this network and friendships that goes well beyond robotics. And it just kind of goes to show what classy, kind of great kiddos we are surrounded by, adults, coaches that are friends for life, and it's a great environment. It's caring, and so a lot of fun to be a part of. A lot of fun, that's for sure, on all levels. Yep. I guess. Yeah. So does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? We, as a reminder, tonight's episode is pre-recorded, and so those of you that are in the chat can chat amongst each other. But we've got just some experts here, kind of talking some roundtable discussion on competitive robotics. Anybody else have something they want to add before we wrap up tonight's session?
Well, I want to add, I know Andrew's not here and he can't get the accolades he should get, but Mall of America sold out in an hour. That is awesome. I think the last time I checked the wait list, it was pretty high. So that tells you, for a second-year event, we probably did something right last year. Probably something that was going on last year at that event was right. These teams have latched onto it. I mean, some events you go to and they're just great, and you're like, oh, they could get a little bit better. Some events out of the gate is a really hard task. So I'd like to, Aaron Barker and Andrew and their whole team, they should be really, really proud of themselves, because that is huge. I mean, really, really huge. And I'm proud to have been a part of it. So good job, guys.
Yeah, huge shout out for sure. All right. So there is also, for those of you joining us, there are some Unvexed Coaches workshops that are going to be available, offered on Robot Events. So make sure to check that out ahead of time to see if you would like to join us. There'll be a lot of topics that are covered. So, yep, go again to robotevents.com. And just a reminder that if we're going to be rounding out episode 5. So if you have ideas that you'd like to hear us talk about on future topics, make sure to email us at theworldunvexed@gmail.com. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below and join us every third Monday of the month. Down. All right. So signing off, and thanks again for joining us another night.